Okay, we're ready? Okay, I've got a little after 6. We'll go ahead and start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First on the agenda is Pam Goffman.
First off, I have payroll that was distributed on March the 29th for all employees for $147,061.59.
Okay.
Motion that we approve it?
Any discussion?
I think Greg made the motion. I'll second that.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the payroll. Go by roll call. Greg?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
I also vote aye. Motion made, second carried, 3-0.
Okay, next I have claims, so I'm just gonna read the amounts because I'm sorry, I forgot to total. County General for $375,371.61. Highway for $154,504.53. We had advances for $64,391.96. $1,295, $1,607.63, and $701.62. These were all emailed out to you today, if you had a chance to get them looked over, or have any questions about any of them.
Randy or Greg, do you have any questions or discussion?
No, I will abstain from line item 161 because that is a payment to me.
Okay,
Okay.
161 you said?
Line 161, or
Okay.
claim 161, I'm
Claim,
sorry.
okay.
Be specific, I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, motion made and second, and by roll call, Randy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye with the abstention.
Okay, motion made, second, and I'll also vote aye. It carried 3-0 with abstention to 1.
61.
Yes.
Okay. The last that I have are the minutes from February, which was your February 1st meeting, your February the 16th meeting, and then you had a public hearing on February the 16th also.
Any discussion?
No, sir.
No. I'll make a motion to approve all
All-
the minutes.
All of them, okay?
Yes.
Thank you.
Second, sorry.
Motion made and second. Vote by roll call. Randy?
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Motion, I also vote aye, so motion made, second, carried 3-0.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is discussion about forming a committee for the American Rescue Plan Act funding. We have been getting different information that's coming in. We just now was given some more by our county attorney. I, for one, want to say that, now, we do want to, I believe that we want to form a committee with the relevant people and include however many commissioners and however many council that we can legally. Chris, do you have anything to add that legally, a committee like this, could there just be one commissioner, or how, or
Well,
what's your feeling?
if you're gonna have public meetings, then it doesn't matter how many commissioners or council you have. You'll just go ahead and have the regular 48-hour notice of the meeting and have the meetings. So you can have 3 commissioners, 2, or 1. And same for the, talk about it too.
Maybe that would be
That's a good idea.
a good idea, just to put it on. So what's the timing there? Our next meeting is,
Their regular meeting is on the 22nd of April, I think.
it'd probably be easier to have it at their meeting than it would to be our next meeting, correct?
They
Their
do-
plans is to have it in person
They do have a special meeting on the 12th,
at the high school.
which will be a public meeting at the
Yeah.
high school auditorium. That, they have one item of business to consider, and then
That probably will take 5 to 10 minutes.
It shouldn't take terribly long, so there should be time, yeah, I would agree. Now, I don't know if you wanna do it that quick, but that's the first meeting they're gonna be meeting in public.
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, in person.
Person.
In person, would be that meeting.
Well, maybe, and that's at 5.
Theirs is at 6, right?
Theirs is at 6.
6.
Yeah.
Well, that wouldn't be a bad time. And maybe, so I guess maybe I entertain a motion that we.
They actually got 2 things, I've got one other thing Luke's asked me today to put on there, but it's gonna be small too.
Okay.
So,
Maybe ask for a motion for the commissioners to ask to be on their agenda.
Sure, I'll motion that.
okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mandy?
I'll second that.
Okay. So motion made and second. Roll call, Greg?
Aye?
Randy?
All right.
And I also vote aye that we ask the council to be on the April 12th agenda concerning the formation of the.
Discussing formation of a committee for the
of
AFR
committee.
money.
And the way I understand now, Chris, you may correct me, and that what I'm understanding this will come down, it's gonna be real similar to the edit money, where there is a ordinance and a plan by the commissioners, but then there's, none of the funds can be spent without the appropriation from the council.
That is my understanding as well. Yes, you approve an ordinance, which will take some time to get to because we have to have a plan. So you approve the ordinance that has the plan attached to it, or at least references the plan. I'm not clear yet on if it has to be the exact plan, but it references the plan. And then, yes, the council will have to do an additional an appropriation from the fund. Then we have to set up a separate account that the State Board of Accounts has designated as a separate account. So the ordinance will do that too. And all the money goes into that one account, and then the council appropriates the money out of that account.
Okay.
And in the webinar they gave, they were pretty specific because the money's coming so fast, they know that we won't be able to get a plan, and that ordinance sets up that account. We have to have that separate
Yes,
account.
yeah, we need to get that done before May 11th, because
Yeah.
I believe the money, the first installment of money should be here by May 11th, I believe.
Well, maybe we should put that ordinance on our May 1st.
I think we should.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, the way the webinar said, we only have to give the plan a specific name, but it doesn't have to have any detail in the plan at that point.
And it is amendable too.
And it's amendable.
That's the
Okay.
good news. So,
That's
you
the
know,
other-
if some big project comes up that makes a lot of sense that we didn't think of, we being the committee, and you guys didn't think of at first,
Yeah.
you can always amend the plan, if it makes sense to do that. So.
Well, and, yeah, May 1st or May 11th is an awful short period of time to decide how the money's gonna be spent.
Yeah.
That's unfair. That is
I'm
unfair.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Oh, so Chris, okay, so I'll make sure I'm right. It'll help me
Before
out a lot
before the end of
easier.
the year. That was the
Yeah.
rule.
Well, they wanted to spend it fast. I mean, here, reference to letter, I mean, we'll get to that in a minute. And it's actually not just CARES Act. It is, the state called it something else. Coronavirus Aid Relief and Economic Security Act.
Which will be easier for me too, because this way, if it's not in the plan, then I know I can't write the check for it, so,
That's right.
okay, that'll work
Yep.
better.
Right.
Okay.
So anyway.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Subject to
As
change.
best as we can make it.
It's subject to change,
Okay.
depending on the rules, how the rules change. But the
Right.
information I have now has come from the State Board of Accounts, so that's
That's getting
about
pretty
as
close.
gospel as you can get at this point in time.
Right, that's getting
Yeah.
pretty close.
Yeah.
Is this the information you sent out today with that
I've
draft
got-
ordinance, or?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've
you've
got
got
some
something
for you
else?
too. that
Okay,
you
great.
can look at, so.
Yeah, because I've been trying to read over all that stuff.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, we'll move on.
Ooh, fun.
Health Department funding? I'm not sure.
I had that put on the agenda.
Okay.
If you remember, I think everybody was at the council meeting or listened to it, maybe except Chris. A couple weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I did a walkthrough on clinic day, on vaccine day. And I was very impressed how everything was working. I think everybody needs to go down, if you haven't been down there yet, getting the vaccine, or just walk through it as an elected official. You know, the health departments went through a lot this last year, and they're still upbeat doing what they need to do for the county, so that's great. A couple things I was a little concerned about. I noticed the way the clinic works during the day, they shut down at noon for cleaning, a little rest for the workers and the volunteers. There's several volunteers there. Teresa, I think she goes down. Thank you for that, Teresa. A lot of other departments actually send some of their employees there. Then public, I mean, just in the public, they come in and volunteer their time. That's good to see. But at lunchtime, they've been, some of them been trying to bring some lunch in, and they've been asking for donations. I would like to set up some kind of fund so they wouldn't have to be doing that as long as the clinic is going on, the vaccine clinic. Because I don't think they need to be worrying about trying to figure out how they're gonna get lunch for those volunteers there that day and the workers. And that was one issue. And another issue, the disposable needles, they're piling up. In the past, the solid waste always gives them a $1,000 grant on a normal year, and that pretty well takes them through the year to dispose of the needles. Well, this is not a normal year. They're probably making more needles in 2 weeks than they are in the whole year. Dirty needles. So they need some funding to get rid of those properly. And I'm just concerned about the state says we probably will have the vaccine clinic the rest of the year. So can we shore up any funds for overtime if need to be? That was my 3 questions at the council. I think Pam was going to be looking in different ways we can fund some of this. I was hoping one of the 2 of the council would be here, but they're not. So have you come up with anything, Pam?
Well, as far as for me looking over things, I have talked to Luke. I do know that they are looking into some stuff. They haven't really informed me of everything yet, but I know they are looking into some other funding. I mean, as far as with, and I've gone over and over with our financial. The only 2 funds that we really even have any spare things going on right now is what little bit we still have in the rainy day, which is not a whole lot. And the only other really rainy day pot of money we have is that extra edit money, but I don't know if any of that can be used for that. I know we've used it for health insurance before, but that is the only spare pots that we have.
There actually is a $40,000 grant too that is coming through the health department as well that they worked to get, and I think they gave that to the council, that 40 grand to spend. And I believe in there they could use that for disposal of needles. I think they could use it for overtime, and I think they also could use it to actually fund the meals.
I think that's part of what they're gonna discuss at the April 12th meeting is
Yeah.
part of that with that grant.
And I may have misquoted some of that stuff, so that's just me.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, what I've heard.
I didn't know how much, because I know they're looking into it.
Yeah.
And Luke said that they'd like to, I think that's the thing that he's got me to put on there for the 12th.
Yeah.
As far as how they because there's a lot of confusion with that, because I'm not sure if it's council. They're making it sound like council decides how to spend it,
I think they gave
but
them
then the health
grant to-
department signs off on it, so it's,
Yeah, I don't know.
Luke was gonna be doing a lot more checking as far as how this grant's supposed to work.
Yeah.
Because it says the council's supposed to administer it.
Yeah.
Well, the council don't administer it. I'm the secretary to the council, so I'll be the one administering it.
Right.
But we don't know what specifics, how this grant thing's supposed to be set up. But the only thing I do know is that it has to also be spent by June the 30th.
Yes.
So there's
it
not
does.
much time.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. So there's not much time on
Has
it
to be
either.
spent or?
Spent.
Yeah, they just got it like maybe a week ago or something, the sign and say that, yeah, we're taking it and receiving it and all that, but.
Yeah, so it has
I
to
don't know if
be.
they've received, I think they gotta apply for it, I believe.
No, I think they are just signing for it to get it.
Okay.
It is
Okay, I
already
know
been applied.
They'll probably have to ask the council, because I think they was concerned about grants coming in. They would like to have approval or something. what
Well,
they
that's
talked
why they've
about.
contacted the council on this.
Okay.
And I know that's one thing Luke said that they're doing he's doing a lot more research to find out who's to sign it, who actually has who's supposed to say what it's spent for? Or they have to have that up front with this grant? Because yes, Greg, I think you're right, you know, it can cover overtime, it can cover the disposal of these things, and I'm not sure what else was in there. I didn't receive the email on
think
it,
it
so
was-
I'm not sure what all was stated.
It was pretty broad, so, I mean, it might cover something else too that we're not even discussing here at this moment too,
Yeah.
so who knows? But I just
But-
wanted to know that that fund was out
I
there.
think
That's
it-
the key, that
Yeah.
that money's out there.
It will cover like some of the, with the needles.
Yeah,
I did
sharps.
read
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
remember seeing that in there.
Yeah.
So that's supposed to be, I think, discussed on the 12th also.
Overtime and the needles, and then, and I believe I did see something about meals for
I think it
volunteers.
was pretty broad, but again, it could be used for other stuff too.
It's gotta be applied for, and that's not. I
No,
guess
it's been
that's not
applied
on our
for.
plate.
It's applied for.
Is it?
They're,
Okay.
they're literally just signing for it, is, whoever's gonna administer it has to sign it.
Okay.
Okay, on the funds, Pam, could you explain a little bit of how the, general fund with the, cash balance coming out of 2020?
Yes.
Is that there or is that not there?
Okay, well, okay. The cash balance, starting as of January 1, was 855,000, okay? I work up a financial work statement for the council every month, okay? Because the council can't just take and spend on what the cash balance money we have. You've gotta take into factor as far as the revenues coming in, property tax, and then we have to figure the budget, if there's any encumbrances that have to be spent. You have to take all that into factor, and then you have to come down to, and then you got the circuit breaker that still has to come off of this too, because that's money that we're losing. I have to give them an amount as far as what unappropriated funds that they can spend. It's not the cash, the cash money's there, but they can only go by with what unappropriated, because we have to consider if the whole budget, what was actually budgeted, is totally spent out. So, yes, the cash started at 855, but the council only has right now they're down to less than 500,000.
That's not budgeted.
That's not budgeted, that they can even do anything with. And that's what they're watching on. See, last year, they really watched by not watching what they were doing with additional, so with that money not being spent, that's what helped to boost our cash balance up. Because those unappropriated funds was not used, that's what helps to keep our cash balance going.
So that's what they use to pay pauper appropriations and.
Yes, and we know all that's
health-
gonna be
health
coming,
Insurance appropriations.
It's sort of like a rainy day fund. Sort of.
It's unappropriated, unbudgeted.
Yes.
yes, but you have to watch, because this is in part of our levy. I mean, and if you spend it way down, then it affects in the Cume Bridge Fund, it affects the health fund, it affects property reassessment.
Yes.
So that's why they're watching with the health fund, because right now with what they've done, the health fund is down to only 63,000 unappropriated.
Mhm.
They don't want that to go too low, because then if it does, it pulls away from all of our other funds to help that one fund out, and then, then it comes to the point as far as whether or not can they give raises out. Is there enough money to give raises? Can they increase budgets anywhere?
Yeah.
Because once you start pulling from other funds within the levy, it hurts the other ones. That's why they're watching really close with the health fund. Even the health fund started out with 60,000 unappropriated, but that's all they've got left, or as far as their cash balance. Even with what we're bringing in and with their budget that they have, I still only have 60,000 unappropriated. So it's kind of like a puzzle that you have to create
Mhm.
with all the lines to get down to what I can tell the council, what they can do to make sure that they're staying within their limits. Because if they go over that, then we're in trouble with the state. And if you guys ever want a copy of this financial statement, I can easily make you one each month, because once they do the additionals, I prepare this every month, and it's got all the funds that they go through budget with.
Yeah, go ahead and plan on doing that. Just put it
Okay.
in our mailbox.
Okay, we
Since
can
we're
do
getting
that.
back to regular meetings now, we'll be back in the
Okay.
office.
Yeah, because it is very helpful,
Yeah.
kind of know where everything's is, and then each month I put down what was allowed in appropriations, so then it subtracts it off, so that way going forward, each month they do what's left. as far as when they're allowing them.
Yeah, if you email that out, add me to the distribution. And teach me where the mailbox is. I'm new. I didn't even know I had one.
That's probably why it's getting full, ain't it?
It's full.
It's that thing in there
completely
spilled
full.
over with stuff. yeah.
It's actual paper. I know you're not used to that, but it's.
There's a trash can underneath it when it gets too full, okay?
Is it your office, Teresa?
Yeah, that one's in hers.
That should have been your initial training.
Oh,
Here's your
well,
mailbox.
I missed that, I guess.
Orientation, you missed it.
No, I was just kinda curious, Pam, because, you know, I wouldn't be looking at anything else, but we're kinda in a emergency situation here. We're trying to
Mhm.
get through this pandemic,
I
and
know.
we need to figure out the way to keep the health department going and, support them 100%, so.
And I know the council's trying to watch, because this is all the spare money they have, here starting now yet in April to go for the rest of the year. Because we have no idea what's gonna happen with pauper attorneys and all that kind of stuff. And even if they have to, because all of our other funds are depleting down, so I know that's why they're being a little conscientious too as to what they're trying to do, so.
Well, I guess my question, maybe to Randy or whoever, I'd support that we do need to watch that and all that. But is it the commissioner's place to, ask for additional appropriations to help that? I mean, or does that need to come from the health department, or is there action that the council commissioners need to take to help with that, or can take? I mean, I'm like Randy, I wanna see it funded, but is there action we need to take, or can take?
I mean, I guess, can they request an additional appropriation?
Yeah. To me, the right person to ask for the appropriation would be the health department.
One spending it.
But Randy giving his support, me giving his support, Tom, I think that's within our bounds as to say that we support that appropriation.
Mhm.
But I think you're right, it's probably better if the health department themselves would ask for the appropriation.
Now, the council did like that one where they put the 10,000 aside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The council did that one because they were putting money aside to help out the health department.
Sure.
So they
There-
did that one,
Yeah.
See, there's about 8,000 left in that one.
yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
think.
And we all hope that's gonna be enough for overtime.
Yeah.
I mean.
And actually, Tasha next Monday, we'll get the next 2 weeks to pay out the next month. So then we'll know where we're at after that.
Right.
Good.
Hopefully that things
I-
have slowed down.
I guess we can watch the 8,000 with the overtime.
Mm-hmm.
The grant, if they do get it, could cover the,
Can cover some
Legals.
overtime too.
Yes.
if we can find a little money for lunch, and that would be, as the commissioners, I think we got the right to say that. They have not asked me for that, that's what I've seen firsthand, and I was a little bit embarrassed that they're out asking restaurants for donations where they went through a year. I know they're glad to do it, but, they went through a year without a lot of business. I feel like we at least ought to do that much, so.
And I'm glad you mentioned it too, cause I know that Erla, she's kinda like the spokesperson for the health department from the council, everybody has their own little, and Erla, they kind of pointed Erla to that one, she did a meal for them, and I think there was a church that did a meal for them after we made that comment. And then I think I got next week's, and so, I mean, they're getting donations outside of the restaurants, which I think is key, I don't think we.
Exactly, and maybe it was a good thing we did bring it to people's
Yeah,
attention,
yeah.
and maybe we won't have to fund very much, but like you said, Greg, there's been several people in the church, Erla.
Yeah.
I didn't know you did it, but.
Yeah, I did.
Thank you.
No, I'm
Yeah.
not saying it for a thank you, just saying that, I know there are people that are moving forward for that, but I'm with you that, to ask our restaurants who have been hurt through this whole thing, to ask them to donate another
Yeah.
time, that's
It's a
tough.
lot.
That's
Yeah,
tough.
that's a lot. That's where I'm coming from with this, so, if the council could figure out something, or if we tried to appropriate some tonight. Like I said, the health department had not asked me to do this, I did it on my own, so.
Is there a fund that we can use for that? I don't know, I mean, again, being new, I have no idea.
They'd have to do it,
In
they'd
the
have to do it out of
commissioner's
county
budget?
general,
Yeah.
out of their own budget.
I don't believe.
I don't think so, right?
I don't believe it's within the commissioner's budget, but.
Okay, I just wanted to
That's
ask.
the only thing they could do is appropriate it out of county general, you'd have to do an appropriation out of county general in your budget.
Mhm.
Which the council would have to
The
approve.
council
of
would have
course.
to approve, yes.
Right, so
makes more sense to work with them on it than.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I just didn't wanna.
But the awareness did pay
That's-
off
that's the
because
po- yeah,
people
right.
started.
Right.
It's only fair though to ask ourselves if we can do something first, and that's why I asked that question. Obviously, there's not, so then there's nothing we can do, let's go to the council then.
Awareness.
Yeah, and awareness, yep,
Okay. We good?
I'm good.
So what's our next step? Just hold tight and ask the council again, or?
Well, I'd say if you're meeting on the 12th,
I think they got funding there and that's the,
Sounds
but
like they're working on it.
the grant opportunity is a big one, and I would suspect if that grant carries it through until, till the end would be fantastic. If not, then it needs to come up in discussion with the committee with the Relief Act money,
Yeah.
and it may be a small part of that, but I think that would be appropriate. Hopefully this grant will come through and by the time that's
well, and that's what,
needed.
I'm hoping that with the grant, if they do allow that for overtime, I'd like to switch things, then pay it from that, save back our 8,000.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then
Absolutely.
keep it and pay it after the grant is gone, which
Right.
is
If
what
needed.
I plan on doing, if that's what it's gonna be used for.
Right.
Yeah.
Hopefully the grant will come through and,
Yeah,
because it's not matching, I mean, it's a straight out.
straight out grant, from what I understand.
So,
Well, I guess we can discuss it at the council meeting then, since they're gonna discuss that grant anyway, so.
we'll know more by then.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay. Next on the agenda, Teresa, we have a,
Yes, all I have is that Bill Amos had sent a notification into the office that he wishes to resign from his appointment on the redevelopment commission. And from what I understand, he has agreed to stay on until he is replaced by you. And so you give it 6 weeks, that'll put you appointing on the May 18th meeting.
okay.
And you just put that in the paper, is that what you do, or how do you?
We relied on the paper to report it,
Okay.
because at the beginning of this, 10 years ago, when we first made the resolution,
Yeah.
that the newspaper was one to charge for that. So we make it as available as, and hopefully they report on it.
Okay.
Which they typically do.
But the resolution was to announce it at our public meeting 6 weeks before we made any board appointments, to give time for anybody interested to come forward. Okay, next thing, under miscellaneous, mask mandates for the courthouse. It's been all over the news starting tomorrow morning. The statewide mask mandate went from a mask mandate to strongly encouraged. That leaves the power to the commissioners on any mask mandate. The way I understand, I have spoken with our health officer, Dr. Markram, of the health department, and his recommendation, pretty strong recommendation, that we go with a mask strongly recommended to encourage people to get vaccinated. If we continue with a mandate, then that kind of takes away from encouragement of people to get vaccinated. And I don't disagree with that. I know that we've talked to few of the department heads, and it's kind of a mixed bag of what their feelings are. My opinion is that we should go with a mask strongly encouraged and with plenty of signage, to continue with the social distancing, even in this gallery here, and to leave it up to the individual departments how they want to, if they want to ask people as they enter, if they don't have a mask on, how comfortable they are. Early on this, before, even before any of the CARES Act, we put up all the plexiglass shields in the courthouse to protect our workers, and sanitizing, and And then it was brought up, well, why are we still requiring masks? Well, that was a state mandate. Whether you believe the masks are 100% effective or somewhat effective or whatever, our positivity rate has been down, and so is that part of it? That's my thoughts on it. Randy and Greg, what are your thoughts on the, I'm talking about just the courthouse. And then we'll talk about a countywide, which I personally don't think we should get involved with making an ordinance countywide.
No, and where I stand, whatever I think your health doctor, Dr. Markham, what he recommends, because he is the expert on this for our county, so, if that's what he recommends, I'm fine with it.
Okay, great.
I got a single question, and I think it, not necessarily for the courthouse, but the next topic, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask it.
For the what?
For the next topic, which is the countywide one.
Mhm.
Chris, if we don't have a countywide one, a store can still mandate that you wear a mask, right?
Yeah, I mean, a private business can mandate that, yes, just like no shirts, no shoes, no service, they
Yeah.
can mandate a mask.
So we're not
We're not limited.
keeping them from being
No.
able to do that, so, I mean, that's
No.
okay.
We're just not making them.
Understood.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're right.
just wanted to make sure that they still were allowed to, to do that.
Absolutely.
And I figured with, the no shirt, no shoes kind of.
There's certain things they can discriminate, they cannot discriminate business, but, safety and attire is one that
Right.
they can.
It's just
require.
like going to Wapaka, you're not gonna go to Wapaka without steel-toed shoes on.
That's
You're-
right.
You're just not, so
Right.
it's the same thing, right? I mean, it's
It's a hard hat.
very similar, kind of.
Very similar idea, you're
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So do we wanna do this in more than one motion, one as a general public, or just not even take action? What's your opinion, Chris?
Well, you have no obligation one way or the other on what you do for the county as far as countywide. So by taking no action, you've taken action, if you know what I mean. So I think you certainly address the courthouse.
Yeah.
And then if somebody wants to make a motion on the county, they can. If they don't, I think,
It's the
the
same as making
governor's,
one.
the governor's, I don't know, policy.
Proclamation?
That's where I was looking for it. The governor's executive order is what it is. That would cover the county then, unless we do something better in terms of more restrictive, what I meant by better. So if we don't do something more restrictive, then the governor's mandate is what? That's not right. The governor's order is what takes over,
Order,
not
yeah.
the mandate, because it's no longer a mandate. I monkeyed that totally up, so.
My minutes are so confusing.
The governor's executive order is what matters unless we make something more restrictive. So if we don't, that's what we go with, is the governor's order.
Also had conversations with Lucy Goff with the Supreme, she gets direction from the Supreme Court, and the direction from the Supreme Court for Circuit Court is a strongly encouraged.
Oh, good,
Yes.
good. So that matches up, that's good.
Right, and I think we need to be consistent within the walls of the courthouse, because somebody walks in, they need to not be confused on where they're going, what they have to do to go different offices. I do think that's important.
Yeah, I agree.
Any more discussion? I'll entertain a motion for, this is for, and I would like to see it for county buildings in general.
That's a good idea.
Right. Now, I do know that the Purdue Extension Office, they have to follow guidelines sent down by Purdue. So
Yeah.
we
That
can,
makes sense.
we can make it a minimum of strongly encouraged, and they can up it if they need to meet their, so.
I'll do the simple so moved with what you just said. That's okay.
Randy?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Great. This is gonna be
motion
confusing.
made and seconded, we'll vote on by roll call. Greg?
Aye.
Randy?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. The motion is that for all county buildings, that we move to a strongly encouraged face coverings.
Okay.
Starting tomorrow morning, is that when this?
Starting tomorrow morning, yes.
Okay.
Because the statewide mandate ends tomorrow morning, correct?
It's supposed to, April 6th.
April
Six.
6th,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, so whenever it officially ends,
Okay.
you know, I didn't see a time.
Yeah,
So, now the next thing to discuss is, as of now, that the courthouse is closed from 12 to 1 for deep cleaning. And we did that. So I'll open that up to you two for any sort of comment or discussion.
I don't even know, again, I'm new here, I guess I didn't realize that we did that, and I apologize for my lack of knowledge there, but you, during lunch break, is that what you do basically?
Right, before the pandemic, the courthouse was open from 8 to 4.
Okay.
You know, and through lunch hour, and they staggered their lunch to provide service to the community or the general public, you know, at lunch hours.
Yeah.
But during the pandemic, we started closing it for deep cleaning from 12 to 1.
Yeah.
So, the way I understand it, they're doing a lot of cleaning during the day, you know, during the work hours. So, Teresa, do you want to weigh in on what happens during the day? I mean, or Pam, either one? I mean,
As far as what the departments felt?
yeah, I mean, if this is something that, well, yeah,
I know the employees like having that 1 hour closure. When I asked if there were any complaints made by the public, they didn't really act as if there were. A lot of people are continuing to use the drop boxes outside, which is a good thing. Of course, we do have tax season coming up, and, well, it's here. And, so, you know,
the
that.
tax bills haven't been received yet, but they're
I don't-
really close.
Right, they're close. Yeah.
Middle of April.
So, you know, as far as that goes, there was a few that were fine either way.
And from what I've heard from the different ones, that they really like being closed from 12 to 1, where instead of trying to stagger, everybody leaves that 1 hour and then you come back.
Right, and I can see that being very convenient to manage the office.
Because it's a lot, I'll be honest, as an elected official,
Mhm.
running an office, it is a lot easier to manage when you know you've got a set time, everybody leaves at 12 o'clock, go to lunch, everybody comes back at 1. You know, it is a lot better than trying to figure out, okay, who's going here, or I like to, you know, still, if I need to switch somebody around, it still, you know, works if they say, oh, I like to work through lunch and leave at a different time for my lunch, which is very still accommodating. But what I've been hearing is, yes, they like being closed from 12 to 1. Now, if you guys decide on that, we do need to amend the personnel policy. Both the council and the commissioners will have to do that, because in the personnel policy, it does state we're open from 8 to 4.
Right, so to go back to business as usual, then that wouldn't take any change in the personnel
No.
policy.
Right,
No, because this was a temporary
yeah.
pandemic-caused change,
Right.
and so.
Well,
yeah.
my thought on that, what are we here for? We're here to serve the public from 8 to 4. And I think we need to go back to the way we was.
Okay,
That's my opinion.
Greg?
No problems with that.
Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion on that.
I'll make that motion to go back to normal hours prior to the pandemic.
Okay,
Second?
okay, motion made and second, we'll vote by roll call. Randy?
Aye.
Aye.
Greg? Aye. And I also vote aye. I think that now if it becomes where we just don't have time, we'll have to look at another temporary closure,
Yeah.
you know.
Are you looking at this starting, your motion, is this
Tomorrow.
starting tomorrow too?
Mhm.
Okay,
You know, I do know, like the officer, you know, there's been times where, you know, the officer has to have a lunch.
Right.
So, you know, I don't know if that's gonna take a little
What'd you do in
time.
the past, Alan?
I don't know.
In the past, we tried to sub in and out,
Okay.
either a correctional officer or a deputy, best we could, but sometime with just one deputy on the road, that sometimes got difficult. But you always have myself around and everything like that. Do you look to start this very, very soon?
tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Should you make?
Or could we,
Can you give it a little time?
yeah, how about we,
I mean, we could delay it, I mean.
First of the week,
Yeah.
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be all
You
right.
wanna amend your motion to have it start
Yeah,
in 2 weeks,
2 weeks from
today?
today.
So that'd be
19th.
19th?
Yeah.
Okay,
On
that,
the-
that,
on the clo-
yeah,
on
that
the-
would,
Will that help you out, Alan?
That would help me as far as scheduling, because I was not
That
prepared.
allows everybody to schedule better.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, that would be great.
April
Right.
19th then for the,
Yes.
the
Lunch
hours,
going back.
continuous hours.
Okay.
Right, and our next meeting is
The 20th.
20th.
20th. Okay, so if for some reason, okay, we'll plan on the 19th, that's the motion. But, you know, we're still in the middle of this pandemic.
Yeah.
So if
Yes.
things, the wheels fall off, then we can look at it again on the 20th.
We get an uptick in cases, then we can
Yeah.
throttle back.
There might be a lot of things you do, you know, you
Right.
never
Don't
know.
wanna
so.
hear
So I
that.
entertain the second to the amendment?
Yeah.
Oh, second, absolutely.
Okay, motion made and second to the amended motion to open the courthouse back up on, the 19th.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of people comes in over the lunch hour to pay
Get the vote.
taxes, so it,
Yeah.
it might work out pretty good for that.
Okay,
Roll call.
let's take a roll call vote.
Aye.
All right.
Randy, and I also vote aye. Motion made, second carried 3-0.
Okay.
I think that's all we had on that mandate.
And just to clarify, the social distancing continues, correct?
Yes,
And
I
the
think that should
limited
continue
seating
on
in the
from
room
now on.
will continue. Your policy as far as people wanting to attend a meeting or to address you about something for your consideration.
If they're put on the
We
agenda,
still
yeah.
need to do that same process, okay?
Right, right. I think that we should have leave in place the social distancing practices.
Okay.
We don't wanna completely turn this, yeah.
Wide open.
Agreed.
Right, we've gotten too far now. I mean, I hate to.
Then we can follow what Dr. Markham says on that down the road too, so.
Okay.
I mean, I guess the positivity rate in Indiana went from 3.8 to 4.1%.
It's gone up actually lately, yeah.
Yeah, so is that a trend or is that
I hope
just
not.
a bump in the road? I'm hoping it's a bump in the road.
I hope it's a bump.
And on the question that was asked by Teresa, I would like to make a motion that we do add a public comment section to the agenda. And we can limit it to 3 people, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever, but most boards I've ever served on or have went to, they always have at least one section there. And they dedicate a small amount of time at least for public comments. And I'd like to see that done with our agenda if we can, so.
Well, public comments on, I think the subject matter should be approved.
Oh, well, I think so too. Because it's one of those things that you will have a limited number of people who can speak anyway. So a lot of times, even for the school board, when I was on the school board, people would ask to do public comments, and we would ask them, you know, what is it about and that kind of stuff. And sometimes we would group them even together, and 2 people would take one slot because it's the same information.
Right.
And we did that several times, you know, just to
Right,
make
but
sure
we
that we
have-
knew.
We've always on the commission.
'Cause you don't wanna repeat.
Allowed public input on current,
Right.
on current business.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we've had some good discussions on some things we've passed and just from the crowd in the
Oh,
Yeah,
past.
current and
absolutely.
future,
Yeah.
we've always had that.
Yeah.
But,
I've been one of them that's raised my hand in the past and
Well,
then you
exactly.
call on me, you know, and.
exactly, but I think that we still need to approve the subject matter because if it's not pertinent.
Yeah, that's fine, I'm fine with that. I'm
Right,
fine with that.
Because we don't
But
want, we don't want the commissioners meeting to be a springboard for someone's.
Right, right. And I think if you look at the other boards, that's how they kind of handle it too. There are some that won't, you will get on public comments or not get on public comments because of.
Right. But we've
Because
always-
with a
we've-
public meeting, you don't necessarily have to have someone speak.
Right, but we've always allowed and encouraged public input.
Sure.
On current,
Sure.
on current subjects and
Yeah.
current, issues.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know that we need a motion for that.
You can
because
change.
We've always done it.
Change miscellaneous to miscellaneous/public comment or something if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, and we approve so.
Okay.
All right, one thing that I do have, and speaking of that, it is, has to do with a previous subject that there's been some concern about, and it has to do with the CARES Act reimbursements that was given to the county, and how those reimbursements were decided on. And I say reimbursements, and there was some confusion on, it wasn't disbursements, it was reimbursements, and there's a difference, because this was handed down from the state as a reimbursement for expenses directly related to COVID. And on the May 14th, 2002 letter from Christopher Johnson with the office, he's actually the director of the Office of Management and Budget from Indianapolis. He laid out what Governor Holcomb had put $300 million in a fund to be able to individual counties and cities, and dispersed according to their formula, whatever that formula was. And it made it very clear that the Corona Relief Fund was not to be used to offset loss of revenue, but just for expenses that were directly related to COVID, whether it be for the preparation of COVID or for costs that incurred as we went along. And along with that, the governor's order that the chief executive officer of the county could make this decision for expenditures, because we were in an emergency mode, and we're still in emergency mode, because this is a health emergency, and the governor had the right to make those executive orders. And the process was that as chief executive officer, that I could sign off on expenses to be reimbursed through this, and then be approved at the next commissioners meeting, which is the way all of these expenses were handled. With that said, when the confusion that I've been seeing is just to lump that in and call that the CARES Act money, because the CARES Act money was close to $3 trillion by the federal government. I mean, it was.
I don't remember.
It was a lot.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Okay, so with that said, you know, I did prepare a statement, and I hope that it makes sense to most people, or to all people. And I'll start out saying that one of the most important functions of our local government is public safety and preparedness. I can go by examples where that's failed, one of them being Katrina in New Orleans. That failure was at the local level. Fact of the matter, there was federal money in the 60s and 70s given to the levee boards to fix the levees in New Orleans, and it simply wasn't done. And that cost the catastrophe that happened when Katrina hit. That's why the levees break. So anyway, so the local government, one of the most important jobs, if not the most important job, is public safety and preparedness. And when this pandemic started in Perry County, Indiana, was projected to lose 400 plus people to this pandemic. That was the estimate. That's what we were that's what we were preparing for. Now, as of right now, we're less than 40, and that's great, but we were preparing for 400 deaths during the coronavirus, and that wasn't including all of the long-term hospitalization. Now, I can go on and then I'm not going to go specific cases, but we all know of the ones that were near and dear to us, and it would be a HIPAA violation if I name them, but it hit pretty close, even the local government. This was a serious thing, and is still a serious thing. So with the impending doom looming, we felt that the best way to spend the reimbursement money was public safety and preparedness. And that was one of the major one of the major expenditures that they was going to allow. What money we spent, we turned into the Indiana Department of Finance, they told us whether or not it was a acceptable or reimbursable amount. The reimbursable expenditure. What they did tell us at the very beginning, and I have it highlighted in the letter, that these CRF funds are not to be spent to lost revenue. Now, these are the part of the CARES Act money that came down from the federal government and trickled down in different ways. Some of it was for this. Now, a large portion of the CARES Act money was provided with stimulus payments to individuals in 3 different disbursements: $1,400, $600, and recently another $1,400, plus the $600 a week additional unemployment for the people that had unemployment. That money went directly to the people, not through the county, and not through the state. Also, another big part that the federal government did was the USDA, as part of the CARES Act, and this is CARES Act money, recognized that there were goods and food, because of shutdowns, were not being purchased from farmers and distributors. They were stuck with them. So the USDA started a program that they developed contracts with the distributors to put goods in trunk-ready boxes, quote unquote. Those trunk-ready boxes were then paid for by the USDA out of the CARES Act money, as long as these distributors made it available to charitable organizations, so the charitable organizations could get these disbursements out to the people that needed food boxes. Now, there were several of them done in Perry County and all over, and I thought it was a great idea. But this money, our distribution, did not go through the county. It went strictly to the distributors of the food, and they made it available to the charitable organizations, which I thought was a great idea. But we were never allowed as a county to have part of that. Also, helping small businesses. Small businesses were afforded with the opportunity to apply for the PPP, the Payroll Protection Program, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which was communicated that would be a forgiveness loan, and a lot of it was. The paperwork filled out properly. Personally, I'm aware of several small businesses that was able to take advantage of PPP and the EIDL to keep their doors open. And the Small Business Administration also offered the opportunity to secure small business loans with very low interest rate, repayable over 30 years. This is how the creators of the CARES Act helped small business, is they went directly through the organizations that deal with small businesses. Who administered them? Well, the Small Business Administration and the local lenders. I mean, that's who actually, and there was our own Chamber of Commerce working directly with PCDC, trying to reach out to as many small businesses in our county as they possibly could and be aware of if some were missed. And even the CVB helped. I mean, those 3 organizations work well together and trying to get help to these small businesses. In addition to the funding available from the state and federal levels, the local government, the distribution of PPE, the personal protection equipment, and cleaning supplies to local businesses. As the health department went around and talked to small businesses about their plans, they also reached out if they needed any PPE and cleaning supplies, and it was provided. Now, I know that there was PPE and cleaning supplies provided by the state. You could apply it to the state. But on top of that, you could also get it from our local health department, and that was where some of the funds was spent. Our distribution came through Indiana Homeland Security and the Emergency Management Office at direct cost due to COVID-19 because of the health emergency. And it was spent on emergency supplies and preparedness. In the end, Perry County is now better prepared for any type of pandemic, mass disaster, or catastrophic injury or disaster. I personally am very glad we are prepared and hope we never have to use this in such a disaster. That is our number one job, and there was money spent on disaster and emergency preparedness. That's what this disbursement was given for, and that's what it was earmarked for. Now, some of it's short and some of it's long-term. We have explained the expenditures in public meetings a few times. The bad part of that is we was in the middle of pandemic where we were having Zoom meetings but our meetings, our public meetings have, even before the pandemic, have always been on YouTube. We've always had them on YouTube. There's been some Zoom meetings that then were shared on YouTube, so they were public meetings and they had public access. In fact, I think they're still out there. We cannot take them off YouTube, is that correct, Chris? They're still available on YouTube?
I think they're still available, yeah.
There was a period of time that when we were doing WebEx through Purdue Extension, that we did not post those to YouTube, but those WebEx links were provided to the general public.
Yeah, so
As were the Zoom meetings, and up to a point where then we had some issues with Zoom, and then we
Moved
made
them
it
to
to where,
YouTube.
We found out what
at that
Zoom-
time, we, technology, we were learning our way. We were
Right.
just getting our
we found out that
YouTube
Zoom
live
bomb
streaming,
was
and
a
we found out
thing.
how to live stream at YouTube, or the Zoom to YouTube,
Right,
so.
so, we found out what YouTube was
Zoom.
Zoom bomb was a thing. I didn't know that till we got bombed a couple times. But anyway, we did the best we could with what we had. What's looming over top of us was this pandemic, and it is serious. I'd hate to have seen where we'd been if we'd lost 400 lives, but that was what protected, and that was what we projected, and that's what we need to prepare for. With that said, the commissioner's been emailed some specific questions, and I did promise that I would answer those. Because, the information highway was kind of interrupted, and I hope that people understand that we did this as a preparedness for the safety of the people, and that's what our number one job is. There was a list of 7 or 8 questions. The 8th one was about how we plan to form a committee for the $3.7 million. We've already discussed that. But anyway, I'll go down the line. There was a question about the test kits bought by the health department. Now, at the beginning of this, to get a COVID test, it cost thousands of dollars. As that got more available, then the test kits and the test equipment became more available. And there was test kits bought by the health department. And these test kits and the equipment to read these quick tests. The test kit was purchased for the use on our frontline workers and frontline people, so they'd be able to get quick results and either quarantine or be able to go right back to the front line. These weren't necessarily purchased for county employees or the general public. They were for first line people, first responders, some of them were healthcare workers. There was firemen, first responders, and anybody that was deemed frontline, and we needed to keep going, that we needed a quick test. And that's what they were for. The general public was never denied testing. There was free testing sites. The hospital was always testing. It may not have been a 20-minute test, but no one was denied a COVID-19 test. And I think there was some insurances billed but then reimbursed as it came down and the hospital got their funding lined out for it. And by the way, one of the CARES, and I'm not familiar how much they got, but each hospital got CARES Act funding, went straight to the hospital, straight to the hospitals. Had nothing to do with the county. Does the county have an enclosed trailer with PPE? Yes. It's been utilized and been filled and refilled several times, and utilizing the tow vehicle. A lot of the PPE had to go to Pike County to get. The exact inventory, that's a moving target. So, I mean, it's full and it's not, and I think it's slowed down now about providing PPE because it's, whether it be the county workers or the small business or business owners, it is changed. Wapaka Foundry had pallets of N95 masks because they use them in their production. So they worked with the health department and provided some too. And so was the generator on the test site used? As stated above, Perry County was projected to have loss of 400+ lives, and we were proactively preparing for this. The pandemic's still going on, and the building with the backup generator may be used for future test sites. We don't know that may come back to where we need test sites, a vaccination clinic, or for shelter during unexpected catastrophes. We didn't know where this pandemic was going to go. It could shut down, and we need a shelter for. We may need a shelter to shelter and quarantine or isolate 100 people, you know, and we need to be prepared for that. We still don't know where this is going to go. Like I said again, keeping public safety and preparedness #1 in our agenda. And one of them was it was about the choice of computers used to purchase for the second edition, and had to do with public awareness. Greg, you're probably the guru. Could you care to address that?
Yeah, I can address it. I'm gonna address it actually as a consultant, so I'm going down to the mic. I'm not gonna address it as a commissioner.
Okay.
Cause at the time, that's what I was. I was a consultant, not a commissioner, so.
Okay. Yeah, and I didn't want to be unfair about it. I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but
Oh, no, I told you.
you're
I would.
probably more qualified to answer an
I told you I
IT
would.
question than I am.
Yeah, I told you I would do it. I just wanna make sure that I'm in the right role.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so to make sure that I get the question correct, I just want to make sure that I read it verbatim. Were multiple high-end Apple computers necessary to perform daily functions, or could you have purchased standard computers with Office, Dell, HP, Lenovo as examples to perform the task? So there are two answers. Like most of the time, there's a short answer and there's a long answer. The short answer I actually take more time to describe than I do the long answer, but I don't know if those are backwards or whatever, but anyway. The short answer to anybody that comes to me as a consultant with that question is, no matter what you're doing with a computer, there is always a range in cost structure. So typically I would spell out the range in terms of lifespan, so that's what I'm gonna do here. The more you pay upfront capital, the longer the computer will last. Most businesses usually buy mid-range. And what mid-range is a lifespan of about 4 to 5 years. The reason they don't buy higher is because on a Windows PC, the cost can triple or quadruple if you start to add more years to it, because you kind of have to be ahead of technology. So you have to be at the very top of the line. So that usually becomes not cost effective. When you switch over to a Mac, that's not necessarily true. And I'll get into that with the long answer. So the long answer is as normal. The long answer, normally you factor in more of the information, the specific instances, and that's what I'm going to do. When the purchase of the Macs was made at the health department, the main reason for purchasing them over Windows desktops were some non-financial reasons, which were given to me per the health department, better security and lower maintenance, and I have to agree with that. I think anybody that's dealt with Macs versus Windows PC, that's a true statement across the board. The state prefers the Macs when they're using some of their databases for STDs and vaccinations, which I wasn't aware of that at the time. And then familiarity of use. They were already on Macs. And I don't know if anybody's ever went from a Mac to a PC or a PC to a Mac. It's a whole change of thought process. Even I, who work on both of them all the time, I literally had to sit there and kind of change my mind frame, my mindset to actually work on one. So that is a real thing. Conversion cost, there's a lot of different file types for Macs versus Microsoft, and we'd have to go through those and make sure they all got converted correctly at the time of conversion. Another conversion cost is ease of transfer. If you've ever transferred data from a Mac to a Mac, it's really, really simple. There's a built-in program to actually do it. You say this computer to that computer, and it literally just replicates. It just shoves it all over. So real easy. And then go from a Mac to a Windows is quite another thing. That's a different ball of wax. The other one is license transfer. When you buy a license for a Mac, most of the time that license will not transfer to a Windows PC like it will the other ways. So, but if you get a Mac to Mac, you can transfer those licenses really easily. It actually does it through that program that I just mentioned. It even sets those applications up for you. You don't have to reinstall anything. They just automatically transfer over. So these were reasons why we did it. The other reason that we talked about, and I gave this in a standard, just generic form at the time. I did do the math here this weekend just to make sure that I wasn't out of my mind when I said it. But Macs do have twice the lifespan. And you can go to most of the websites and you're going to find it. But Macs have 8 to 10 year lifespans if you want to in a business operation. And Windows typically have, like I said, that 4 to 5 for that mid-range that people buy. So if you look at the cost that we spent versus how long it should last them, we're really kind of in that break-even point. And I got numbers to show that if anybody here or out there wants a copy of it, I can send it to them. So, all right. Now I did ask the person that actually asked that question, and I wanted to make sure that I answered all of their specifics, and they said that I did. They did say that they wanted to know how did let's see here, I wrote it down. They basically want how these purchases, be it CARES Act funds, help the governor's directives and the executive orders to mitigate the effect of COVID-19 on the community. I expressed to them that I wasn't going to answer that as a consultant since I wasn't a commissioner at the time. And I think you just did that in your words before. So I think I'm done, unless you got questions for me.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. Helpful.
Yeah, I mean, and hopefully this clears it up. In today's fight against pandemics and emergencies, it involves electronic information. And yes, it is effective on, we couldn't have, the way I understand, we couldn't be having our vaccination clinics for 300 people a day during, is what we're maxing out now, if it wasn't for our advances in information. Is that, Teresa, I know you've been helping out a lot. I mean, does that make sense? Yeah. So
It's all of that is done on some sort of database out there in the cloud at this point. So,
and to
which is
move
great.
people,
I mean, we wouldn't be able to do it at all without that setup that they've created in the cloud for us. So.
right, and to move people through, and you know, we're 20,000 people. We're basically a little under 20,000 people in Perry County, and 300 a day is a big accomplishment. But that still, it takes lots of days to get that accomplished. And the more that we can do, the more the vaccines that the state will send to us to be able to do. So, and you know, this disbursement was made available in the state to the EMA for reimbursement and expenses due to COVID-19 by executive order of the governor in accordance with the Indiana Finance Authority. The expenses were approved by the president and the commissioners, myself, and then approved at the commissioners' next meeting. Once again, this is all done in accordance with the governor's executive order and Indiana Finance Authority. With that said, once again, we chose to be proactive and prepare for the worst pandemic and provide the county with safety and preparedness. The CARES Act reimbursement was, in fact, discussed in commissioners and council meeting as to what it was being purchased with. This is in public record. With the pandemic, a police vehicle, it was asked about outfitting a existing police vehicle. At that time, and I talked to Sheriff Moon, there was only 2 police vehicles available at that time. Only 2. We couldn't afford to take out one of those vehicles for COVID-19 positive transports, because then it would have to be out of service for decontamination. And the officers and the vehicle taken out for decon. And decon is very intense. Believe me, I've deconned several ambulances. It takes a vehicle out of service, you know, and then you have to have personnel out of their normal day to actually decon them. That was the reason for the additional vehicle. Then if this pandemic ever ends, which I think it will, but when or if it does, then we still have the vehicle. We don't have to give it back. So it's a win-win. So with that said, like I said, I will always move towards protection for the safety of our people in Perry County. I'm always about that. If anybody knows me, that they know that that's who I am. That's what I stand for. It's one of our most important jobs. And under this uncertain time, we can't even imagine losing 400 people. The 30-some people who did lose was catastrophic. But and keep in mind too, all of these things, this $600 and some thousand could have been one extended hospital stay for one patient would cost more than $600,000. It could. So I thought it was money well spent. Any other comments by the other commissioners?
Only comment I would have, you're right, when I got that news that we could lose 400 people, I think I was silent for a few seconds. I was shocked. And I think my question was, what are we gonna do? That's when, I think it was Steve Hauser communicated that through the health department to me. I think one thing that, how serious we knew this was gonna be, or could have been, they actually had 2 coolers in the county, probably nobody knows this, secured agreements with to hold bodies. That's how serious this was last year. It was about a year ago all this was taking place. I want to thank Tom Hauser for his leadership in the last year to work with this, since he had executive orders to do this. It's been a tough year on everybody. And that's some of the news we was dealing with. And as long as we went into spring, we thought we was maybe out of it, but they kept saying the second wave was coming in the fall, which it did. They was still preparing us for a lot of body counts. So that's one thing we focused on. You know, I think we need to thank our hospital, our doctors, our nurses, our health department, EMA, all first responders. That number could have been a lot higher, but that doesn't help the 37 people that lost their lives. The worst case scenario did happen to them families. So we need to keep those in our thoughts and prayers through all this, so.
And all those that have long-term effects
Yes.
from this as well.
Yes.
Several of those.
Which
out there
is
as well.
even actually undetermined at this time.
So,
We're still in the middle of it. I mean, I hope we're, that closer to the end we are at the beginning, but
just don't let your guard down.
we honestly don't know that.
And I, like I said, I'm new and I'm learning, but I will tell you that a couple weeks back, one of the health department people shared with me the whole 400 people estimate. I had no idea that until she told me 2 weeks ago that was the estimate that they handed to the county. I was still floored just at that time, even though it didn't happen. I was floored that they even had that thought that it might have happened. You know, that's a scary thought in the situation that it could have been that bad. You know what I'm saying? That's just, it floored me when they told me that. I had no idea.
And if we would've done something different, would those numbers have changed? Well, we can't go back and
No,
determine
no,
that.
no, no.
All we can do is do the best we can and, to protect the people of Perry County, and that's what I thought that we did as a team, and, you know, I appreciate Randy's comment, but Randy was part of the team also, and, there was a lot going on. I mean, I could, you know, tell the personal things that I've had to endure. You know, I was frontline too, and, a lot of these, reimbursements were godsends. Now, can we, will we benefit for them long-term? I hope that this pandemic ends soon enough that we have long-term benefits from the purchases that we made. We honestly don't know that yet. I mean, we may wear out all of the vehicles and give out all the PPE and still be in bad shape. I'm hoping that's not the case, but you can't rule that out. And, you know, that disbursement, you know, I hope that as the council, made a statement that, you know, that, they had some disagreements with some of it, and everybody has a right to their opinion. That's their right. But, you know, the president of the council did say, well, he considered this subject closed, and I would like to consider that too, because we do need to move forward. This new $3.7 million is coming at us. We gotta figure out how we can better our community with that, or get the most bang for our buck.
Our focus should be on that. And what, the steps that we even took tonight when it comes to talking about the subcommittee and getting with the council to form that, I think we're heading in the right direction when it comes to that too.
100%. And the latest thing is, at the beginning of this, Relief Act money, they was talking about a lot of it could be spent on infrastructure as far as sewage and wastewater and water systems. Well, since then, the president has announced that there's going to be new money, other money than that, look for other money other than that, for infrastructure as far as sewage. So we gotta kind of figure out what's coming and, you know, how it's gonna be dispersed. Found out something the other day that, how it's dispersed makes a big difference. If it comes straight from the federal government, that you can't use that money as a match in federal grants. But if it comes to the state, you can use state money as match for federal grants. So if it comes straight from the federal government, then we may not be able to use that as matches in federal grants. Well, that's stuff that we don't know yet. So we gotta be able to gather as much information as possible and have as many plans as, I will say one thing, we could spend $3.7 million at least 10 or 12 times, easy, you know, so, but
I mean,
hopefully.
it sounds like a lot of money, but when you look at what the county needs, period, it's just not. So like you said, you can spend it quite rapidly, so.
Yes, so, and it's been over 4 years?
4 years, 4
Right,
years.
4 years.
Half of it the first year and
Half
the
of
other,
it next year.
the other half over the next 3 years. I think it's 2024,
It's 2024.
2 years, okay, 2024.
You can spend the whole thing till 2024, can't you, or do you have to spend?
Yes, no, you get the first installment within 60 days of the act passing, and the next installment no sooner than 12 months after that.
And you
So
got
sometime,
use the whole thing till 2024.
But the way I understood that you had to use half of it by the end of the first year, 2021. Now, that's what the rendition that I have heard. We haven't been told that 100%.
right, we gotta
Wow.
check that.
Right, yeah, wow, I mean, it's.
I haven't heard that one.
Yeah, so, well, I mean, and there's a lot of good information, you know, consulting firms, and then, you know, the AIC is sending down information, NACO's sending down information. You know, we get a rendition from Stephanie Yeager with the, AICC, and,
Baker Tilly had a good webinar on the other day too,
Right.
with this AFR money.
and quite honestly, you say $3.7 million, I've heard 3.67, and I've heard 3.72, and everything in between. So until that check comes,
We don't know.
we're not gonna count it, so. Anyway, with that said,
I will say that I thought I was drinking from a fire hose before and relying on you guys. Now I'm drinking from 2 fire hoses.
It's a lot.
Cause there's gonna be a lot of learning on this one.
It is.
I mean, I can already tell. It's,
Yeah.
so.
I just have something to get 5 minutes of.
oh, yeah, go ahead, Alan.
My hand's
You have to
tired.
set the podium.
I know, this won't, it'll be quick.
Okay.
So, I'm very sad, but I'm very happy to announce that David Falkenberg has chose to retire against my better feelings, but David has been here at the sheriff's office for over 10 years, and he was over 30 years with Tell City Police Department, so he's very, very valuable to me. So I'd like to announce today that he is going to retire in May. It's going to be very, very hard to replace him, but I have thought a lot about this. It's a very, very important, it's probably one of the most important positions that I have to name. And the dedication that David Falkenberg gave us, I can't thank him enough. So at a later time, I'd like to bring him back and just kind of talk to him in front of you guys. That means a lot to me. But with that, I have thought a lot about this, and I've talked to several people, but I have decided to name Ron Gibson as our new commander. Anybody that knows Ron Gibson, he spent over 30 years with the Department of Corrections, so I think he is very, very careful, or very, very willing to come in and take over. It's going to be hard. You know, the jail is a lot different from the prison, but again, it's a lot similar. So I'm very, very happy for Ron. I hate it for David. David and I are really, really close. It's going to hurt. But Ron Gibson started today. The council agreed to let us kind of go in with David so we can get that going and have some training. So we're very, very excited for Ron. I know he'll come here and do a good job for us. So, but I do appreciate everything that David Falkenberg has done, not only for me personally, but for the county. It's hard to match somebody like that. So he's going to be very, very missed, and I would like to recognize him at a later date, if you guys don't mind.
Well, and I'd like to mention too that, you know, I've known David for a long time when he was an EMT. And then he has, I don't know if you mentioned this, but he needs to be commended for staying with you during the blunt of the COVID-19.
Yes.
I mean, he probably could have retired at the beginning of this and walked away.
Oh, no, he couldn't have. He thought he could, but he stuck with me the whole time, and during my illness, he stepped up too. And, but anyway, I will call him back at another time when you guys tell me to do that, and I'd like to recognize him, but also want to introduce Ron Gibson is going to be your jail commander for me. So, all right?
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan.
How many years did he have on the Telsey, or Ron at the Branchville?
Over 10.
Over 10 at Branchville?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
Ron.
30.
30, okay, I missed that.
Thank you, guys.
There was one more thing I almost forgot. Always want to update our animal shelter, where we're at with this. I talked to Herb Landers, and the organization that we're talking about opening the shelter for is right now in the process of securing enough veterinarian support to operate the shelter. That is where they're at now, and so we're that close to them offering us or entertaining a contract. So that's where they're at right now. Just, I know that that's always on the minds of a lot of people, and I wanted to bring that up. Also then, Teresa, or did you want to mention this, or Pam?
I just laid a couple papers, there are a couple invitations to some legislative, information presentations. One is this week, hosted by the Chamber, and then another, is by the Association of Indiana Counties, the Southwest District meeting.
Yeah, and
Coming up in May, just to let me know if you need me to register you for that.
the web, that'll be the information to, to view the virtual mobile office, Todd Young, that'll be on the county, a link or not? Or is this just?
It's not, you have to reply in one of the two methods there, depending on if you wanna attend or if you just wanna listen in.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Emma?
I did get a text, I'm sorry to be reading text, but sometimes it's useful. Got a text that, to remind everybody that at vaccine and testing sites, even though those are at the annex, when it is a vaccine site, they're still requiring masks by the state guidelines.
Oh, okay.
Just
Good-
a reminder
good
that
point.
during that time frame or during testing sites, that is
And
still
it is,
required.
that is part of the governor's order.
They just wanted me to put that up.
That's a,
Doesn't
yeah,
change
I
what we
never
did,
thought
just-
about that. Yeah.